So, we just launched a brand new Transformers series. The second issue came out on Wednesday, and it is called Transformers.
So Transformers is a brand new take on the brand on Transformers. We have Brian Ruckley writing, art duties by a lot of really cool people. Angel Hernandez, who has done a lot of Star Trek for us in the past, is doing the main art for the first arc. But joining him is Cache Whitman, who is a brand new to Transformers and to comics artist. We also have folks like Sarah Rocher and Andrew Griffith, who will be helping out in upcoming issues.
I believe that's an announcement.
That is an announcement.
I believe nobody knows that.
That's the first time people are hearing that. And then Bethany McGuire-Smith, who did some stuff in Synergy as well, is doing issue number 6, and then going to be stepping up for more in Art 2. And colors by Joanna LaFuente and Josh Birch, two of our longtime Transformers colorists.
So this story, this series, I don't know if anybody's had a chance to check it out yet, but it's set on Cybertron before the war, and we're going to actually see all of the events unfold in real time. Stuff that we've always only seen in flashbacks, or kind of seen how it relates to where the characters are now. The idea here is that this is the real. This is when things are. This is now, and we're moving forward.
This is, people talk about where a starting point is for a story a lot, and this is the genuine starting point of the story for the Autobots and for the eventual war for Cybertron. We are starting out earlier than I think any previous Transformers movie has started out, at least.
That's right.
And we'll be following our new guy, Rebel, who you can see up there a couple of times. He's usually pretty small, but he's running down the hill in the third panel on your left.
I was going to say, hey guys, look, Bumblebee's back.
Let him not die this time.
What's that?
Don't let him die this time.
And Bumblebee's going to be showing him the ropes. I don't know if everyone here has seen him. I would assume so. There's also a really cool, really big Bumblebee outside, and John and I got to get a picture with it later. This is an announcement for you. We got to get a picture with it later.
I think Bumblebee has to get a picture with us.
Fair enough. And we'll be seeing lots of other familiar faces, like Windblade, who is also up on the screen right now. One of the really important things to us in this series is appealing to people who like Transformers and appealing to people who only kind of know about Transformers by building a brand new Cybertron. So this is going to really bring you in at the footsteps and into the hills and mountains and beautiful landscapes of a Cybertron that hasn't been destroyed or torn up by war at all. This is, fresh and clean and beautiful in a really alien way where Transformers literally are growing into a landscape.
Yeah, I missed that the first few times. That mountain there, if you look at that, it took me a minute.
That's a guy.
Yeah, that used to be a giant Cybertronian.
Mm-hmm. What happened?
Hey, keep reading. That's a great question.
So talking about some of the upcoming issues and just showing off some of our upcoming covers. Issue number 6, I mentioned earlier, is going to have Bethany McGuire-Smith coming in. She's doing all of the interiors on it, pencils, inks, and colors, so it's going to look really, really rad. On our left is a cover for that issue by Jack Lawrence and Josh Burcham, and it pretty much gives away what the issue's about. The relationship between one Megatron and Orion Pax. It's a little bit of a flashback, which is weird for a book that starts so early on, but it's just, building their relationship even more, and it's really the start of their story. Then we have a cover by Livio Remendelli, who is probably downstairs in our alley right now.
He's sad and lonely like Bumblebee, wishing all of us were there.
And that's going to be on issue number 7, which is the start of the second arc.
Hello, I'm Brian Ruckley and I'm the writer on IDW's new Transformers comic, which is quite a privilege for me because as a writer it's not that often you get the opportunity to start something as big and significant and as important to so many people as this. And I hope that some of you there have maybe already given it a try and that those of you who haven't yet will. Because it's not that often as a reader that you get the chance to be in on the ground floor of something as big as this. It's a slightly different take on the Transformers epic story and universe that you perhaps already know. Perhaps there are some new Cybertronians for you to meet along the way, and one or two new alien species. And I hope there are some twists on storylines that perhaps you think you already know. But all the characters you'd expect in a Transformers epic are in there as well, or at least they will be eventually. If your favourite hasn't shown up yet, then don't give up hope. There's a lot of ground to cover. I love writing folks like Prowl and Chromia and Cyclonus, and I hope you can come along on the crazy ride we've got in store for them in the coming months and years. I don't think it's giving too much away to say that there might just possibly be a big war somewhere in there. But hopefully we can have some fun getting from here to there.
So that was Brian. Maybe I didn't know it was going to autoplay. He couldn't join us for this. He's out at home in Scotland.
Saying what we said, but better because
Yeah,
with a Scottish accent. No, he wasn't allowed to leave his home. He has scripts to turn in. We have a bi-monthly, twice monthly book to put out, so he needs to write.
Yeah, so the subject, like where it's a time of peace, but the beginnings of turmoil on Cybertron. A new group called the Ascenticons is sort of fomenting some. I don't know what you call it, like anger or mistrust toward what's going on in the world. Dissent. That is exactly the word I was looking for. Thank you. Good. So one of the things when maybe you could talk a little bit about when Brian came onto the book. When like I knew of Brian's stuff because he's a novelist. He's a fantasy novelist. He's got a number of books that are out. He's done a couple of comics at IDW. And they were always sort of ones that were maybe odder or tough sells. He did a really great Rogue Trooper series a number of years ago. But that's sort of, like the idea of doing a sort of an American Rogue Trooper comic by a Scottish writer. Rogue Trooper is a really famous English comic, a British comic from 2000 AD. There's sort of people maybe didn't get a chance to see his writing on it. When he pitched on Transformers, there were a number of people that were pitching, a number of people were talking to. But when I saw when David and Tom Walsh is also editing the book, passed his pitch over to me, like I was really taken in by the scale of it, both like the really big physical scale, like I saw on the 2-page spread, where there's mountains of Transformers, but then also shrinking down to that little tiny rubble up there on top of that mountain who was cheering, and also the personal scale where we have this new character Rebel coming out, and we have this Bumblebee sort of showing him around, and it's a very ground level view of what's happening. It isn't just the big movers and shakers. It's about how people on Cybertron are dealing with this stuff happening, and yet we also still see Orion Pax and Megatron and the sort of like Shakespearean drama that they live in, and it hit to me like all the right chords of being giant and personal. In keeping all, I'm really proud of the work we did on the previous Transformers run. I really love what James and James Roberts on Women's the Eye and Lost Light did, and what Margaret Scott and Sarah PD on Talal One, and everything else, Alex Milne and Griffith and everybody worked together.
Nick Roach.
Well, not everything.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm kidding. I love Nick. That was a joke. That was a joke. All that stuff. But being able to kind of take some of the best parts of that, but tell a brand new story that also brings in a lot of new stuff and a lot of new ideas. I was really excited by that. So I've rambled on.
No, it's all right. So yeah, that is absolutely the sort of scope that we are going for in this series, and I think you can see it pretty well in these pages by Cache Whitman, where you have that sort of intense, big marching rally of the new faction, the Ascentons, but then it transitions into what ultimately is a tense but fairly, quiet conversation between two old friends, Orion Pax and Megatron. You get the hints of the larger action, you get the big story overall, but it's being told in these sort of personal moments, and I really admire what Ryan's doing with that. This is the rest of that
The
sequence.
rest of the sequence, yes.
Which, makes more sense when it's lettered, but it looks really pretty when we want to show it off.
You can do the voices, right?
Yeah.
Megan, you do a really good Megatron.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Megatron.
Oh,
Do it. So a couple other just sort of cool things about this new series that I wanted to touch on. Every even-numbered issue through number 12, we will have an RI cover by Jeffrey Vareshi, and he's doing these really awesome, vintage travel poster inspired designs. So clearly we have a Cybertron Daily Departures and a Iacon Welcome to the City poster. The things that Jeffrey is doing with these are really, really fun and interesting because, this is so outside sort of what we traditionally think of as Transformers art. And in his own small way, he is helping with the world building of this art. These are actual posters that someone will use on Cybertron. And it's super cool to be able to share those with everyone. Just got a couple other nice art pieces. These are both from the second arc. So we have a Psychonist by Anna Mokola, who is a new to us artist. She's also a longtime Transformers fan artist, and we're very excited that she's starting to do covers. And then we have a nice crown chromium from Priscilla and Anaheim.
There's good old Rubble.
Yeah, it's Rubble. So I don't think we've shown this exact thing off before. This is the actual concept art for Rubble by Angel Hernandez. And when I saw that sweet little face, I fell in love with him. I'm like, my robot son.
Does he rubble?
Also, I've had a couple of people ask me this. No, he is not related to Barney or Betty Rubble or even Bambi. So with him, and I know we have shown this off, is another new character, Geomotus. He will first show up in issue number 3, which will be on sale next month. He is also one of my favorite characters in the new arc. I actually don't tell anyone this, I like him a little bit better than Rubble. But Geomotus is a surveyor. He works with geology, which is kind of where his name comes from. And he is really distinct as a totally peaceful and just nice Cybertronian. He is, I think, our first openly disabled Cybertronian, which is interesting. And he is just going to be a lot of fun when you get to meet him. So I'm looking forward to that.
EJ, what was it like making this convention exclusive cover for us? Who volunteered to be EJ? Somebody did, right? So somebody help us out on that. So here, I don't know if you remember EJ, way back when we first launched. I feel bad, I'm just kidding. I'm just giving EJ a hard time. I'm sure he had traffic or something. EJ did this convention exclusive cover. We have it down at the booth. EJ, if you don't know who he was the original artist when IDW got the Transformers license about 100 years ago. He worked on Infiltration with Simon Furman and did a really tremendous run.
So it was really nice.
Boom!
It was really nice having EJ do that cover that ended up being the Wondercon exclusive cover for us. It officially means that EJ worked on the first cover for the first run of Transformers and a first cover for this one of Transformers, and it's just a nice little cyclical thing.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, these are some of the classic images he was asking about. Sure. We of course did a couple issues of Lost Light as well. That were really awesome. You can see just the range of his. Well, I mean, there's a lot of time that had passed, but he has a huge range in styles.
It's probably. I will say this. Maybe it's say, so like 14 years ago when I was a kid, I picked up Infiltration Number 0 and loved his art then, and now, you know, as an adult, I'm getting to edit his work on stuff like Living Cover and on his issue of Lost Light, which just turned out phenomenally well. Fun fact about these pages, that grunch, the big sound effect, was drawn into the art and just really sold me on like, man, EJ needs to do more stuff again.
He also did cover for Unicron number 6, which is the kind of the end of the previous universe, so we had him there for the end of that universe as well. Speaking of the past, here's a
Simon Furman.
Exactly. Here's just something nobody's seen or heard of yet. Coming this July? August, I'm sorry. Transformers 84 number 0, a prelude issue to both the original Marvel Comics Transformers number 1 and the original Marvel UK first story. Simon has weaved a tale that links both of them together in a really unique and really awesome way. This is the first story Simon's done for Transformers in a few years.
Yeah.
I think since Regen 1 ended, if I'm not mistaken, but he's definitely been in. Yeah. So really excited to have Simon back. Guido Guidi, longtime Transformers artist who drew some of Regen 1, drew like maybe a third or half of Regen 1.
Something like that.
The stuff that Andrew Wildman didn't draw. Is back to this, doing it in the kind of retro style. He's really perfected.
Yeah, that is training Guido art. It's not quite the final art, though. Fun fact, we did get sign off on it, so it is.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
That is final art, guys.
But it's really a perfect blend of the old school style with some modern tricks that make it really pretty.
Yeah, and here's some other weird alternative stuff.
So speaking, I mentioned how Jeffrey Bresci is doing the even numbered issues. Guido will be doing the odd number issues 3 through 11. So he's doing special 35th anniversary covers, and that's sort of what Transformers 84 number 0 is about. The brand's been around for 35 years, and that's amazing. And we're just trying to, since we have so many new launches and like things to do and talk about Transformers with, we wanted to do a special anniversary cover program for them. And Guido is doing these very cool retro style covers. Speaking of going back to first, that image on the left of Bumblebee versus Starscream is reminiscent of the very first Transformers cover Guido did for IDW. He did one for, I believe, Transformers Classics, which was a reprinting of the Marvel book back in the day, and it was a Bumblebee versus Starscream cover. So, yeah, there's a lot of legacy in this stuff.
Yeah. Was anybody there for picking up Transformers number 1 when it came out? Anybody wants to? Yeah, me too. Yeah. You were? Wow. All right. Yeah, no, I'm excited. According to TF Wiki, it came out my birthday, which I'm going to accept that as a fact. So speaking of 35, 35th anniversary, Transformers is not alone in turning 35 this year.
Nothing you wanted, but obviously clearly do. Transformers Ghostbusters by our usual Ghostbusters team of Eric
We waited too long for this.
So we got Eric Burnham, Dan Schoening, and Luis Antonio Delgado. I've seen a lot of art and read scripts already. It's going to be very, very cool. And fun fact, you guys are going to get to see some of the art and read some of the story because we have a goodie giveaway.
Yeah, exclusive only for this panel. We have we're passing out right now a Ashcan edition of the first 4 pages and covers of the comics. You guys, I think you get the chance to see this before anybody else, fully lettered.
So cool.
This is the world premiere of this, so hope you dig it.
Another one of the really cool things about this series is that, besides just being a really fun crossover between the Transformers and Ghostbusters, it's really about the new character, Ectotron, who is getting a toy later this year. And he is a Ghostbuster who is also a Transformer, which is super convenient.
Which one of the 5 is he?
He's the tall one.
Oh, it's all.
So, yeah, I am very excited that we get to sort of tell Ectotron's official story. You'll find out his real name because why would he be named Ectotron if they don't deal with ectoplasm? He has a much more complex Cybertronian name, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, so you're about to see this with lettering, but here's the first couple of the first pages. As you can see, we got that like really great G1 style. Who's Antonio Delgado on colors and Dan Schoening on art are literally the perfect team for this because they get like the cartoony, but also make it look really sleek. And yeah.
If anybody follows the Ghostbusters comic, anybody happens to be a Ghostbusters comics fan, all right.
Yeah.
I always say, I feel bad when I say this in front of Eric and Dan. That comic is so much better than it has any right to be. That when you hear a Ghostbusters comic, you're like, okay, none of the actors are going to be in there. You know what I mean? Like you don't have the stuff that made the original Ghostbusters or the later Ghostbusters. Really funny. They always manage to do such a great job in it. And part of it, they have sorry, I'm popping my keys there. Part of it is they have such a knowledge of the characters, and they pull in so many little inside jokes and stuff. If you're really into it and you look in the backgrounds, there's all sorts of little pieces. Probably a lot of you that are big Transformers fans can see some real clear references in there to the first episode of the More Than Meets the Eye miniseries from the 80s. There's a slight reference to the Ghostbusters film, the end of the Ghostbusters film in the right-hand panel. That's Zool from Ghostbusters.
Oh, that's Gozer?
Oh, you're right. I knew that.
But yeah, no, so one of the nice things is they are definitely bringing that in this series. So if you like Ghostbusters, there's going to be some Ghostbusters goofs. If you like Transformers, there is some very pointed Transformers references that you're going to pick out, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of Transformers crossovers, Star Trek vs. Transformers is coming out.
Oh my god.
It was co-written by Mike Johnson, who did all the heavy lifting, and some guy named John.
Oh my god.
That's
I need it.
Gosh, if you haven't read it, without spoiling too much, Captain Kirk has taken control of Fortress Maximus and turned him into an Enterprise transformer called Fortress Tiberius.
Oh god. Oh my god.
So it was an excellent little mini-series. We are putting it together in a trade soon. Don't remember when that's out.
I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. Look, ask for it at your local comics shop. It'll be there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's the crew of the classic Enterprise in sort of the Star Trek animated style, meaning the G1 Transformers with a couple of extra little references in there, and it's a lot of fun. Again, it's kind of like Transformers Ghostbusters. It is a love letter to both properties. Really nice thing.
Any chance I could be after this animated film?
Are you a producer? That would be amazing. Yeah, weirder things have happened. I'm sure you saw they're doing the Batman Ninja Turtles cartoon that is we did that work that IDW and DC did that in the comics first. So definitely stranger things have happened. So yeah, call your local movie producer. Let them know. There's some more. Got to put that in there. GoBots, anybody have a chance to check out GoBots? It's by my collaborator on, when I say collaborator, the guy who did all of Transformers versus G.I. Joe, Tom Scioli. There's a collection series coming out this June. This is one of my favorite comics of 2018 and 2019. It is so heartfelt and bizarre and stylistically complex and fun. I absolutely love this. I just want to make sure people had a chance to see it. There's a paperback for this one's coming out too. The series is all wrapped. I think it's all. Is it all out, or is it just still coming?
Yeah.
It's all out. Yeah. Okay.
You working on it?
I did.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Well, outright right now just came out on Wednesday, right? Available now.
Yes.
It was Synergy.
It's downstairs, right?
It's downstairs at the IDW booth, if y'all want to pick it up. This is just a fun project to kind of celebrate Women's History Month and to be able to find some really new, fabulous ladies to write about some of our favorite Hasbro properties, including Transformers. So here we have some pages from the Artsy story written by Perry Mercer with art by Yu Miao and colors by Elena Umbra. We'd worked with Elena on Sonic, but Harry and Umi are actually, they made like a 7 or 8 page Transformers fan comic. So it was really great to be able to kind of bring them into the world of official publishing. And as you can see, Umi's art is just fantastic. She like knocked out that RC design in like 4 hours. It was ridiculous.
Megan did a really great job putting this together, and I ended up coaching a lot of the Transformers artists she put in the book.
But he says that, but he helped me find a lot of them to put in the book, so it was okay.
And there's a fantastic Emma Michelli G.I. Joe story. If it was, about I know this isn't a G.I. Joe panel, but it happens to be a really great story.
It's obviously I talked to Tom Waltz, my co-editor on Transformers a lot. He also edits G.I. Joe, and he's talked about how in 3 pages, something like that.
Yeah, Emma we basically consider this canon, and not all of the stories in Synergy are necessarily part of canon, but it's so important to Don Ryan's character.
One of the other cool things we do in the book is this other Katie Cook kind of tells the story of how she originally got into My Little Pony. She's the original, the first Ponies comic writer. Maggie Skarbowska is doing the art of that one, and then we did the same thing with Margaret Scott, who couldn't be here today. She's here, as we mentioned, Friday and Sunday, but not today. So she and the Transformers all on one team of her and Sarah Petrie-Droger and Joanna LaFuente did sort of the biography of Margaret, how she got into Transformers, her fighting with her sister down inside of there. That was really, that's one of my favorite stories in the whole thing. Yeah.
So, Megan, having read it all, a lot of these stories are very personal and like touching and heartfelt, even if they are not actually about becoming a creator on a Hasbro book. Do you want to talk about how that sort of became a focus of the issue, or?
I think it was really just the creators wanted to tell these sort of stories, and so it was really easy for me to kind of find that through thread. Especially like the Jen story, which wasn't featured here, but that has kind of a really deep message to it. And so, and again, I was just super excited to get to work with a lot of fabulous ladies.
I remember, I was talking to Margaret last night. She was like, I turned in the script for this, and I was like, there's no way they're going to let me do this.
Yeah, and I was really excited that Hasbro was like, yes.
Yeah, it wasn't like super negative or anything. It was just like so sort of personal and gotcha. Yeah. Let's show you the panel. So let's, like we already have, we'll open it up to questions. Do you have a question? Or you're stretching? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Go ahead.
First off, I want to thank you guys for just the respect you guys gave Megatron on just a fully rounded character in the last ones. And the fact that you continued on with Knockout, who has become a huge favorite of me and my Decepticon tribe of girlfriends. We love having him. But on that note, we are also massive fans of the ride at Universal, and we're hoping to see Evac in some of the comics. Do you think that's ever going to happen?
Literally, no one has ever said those words in that order before.
I know that for myself, I really love what we did with the last run of bringing in characters from basically every iteration of Transformers at some point or another. And I would like to continue that in some ways. I can't say for sure, because that's always going to be a conversation with Hasbro, but I would certainly like to see more. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. So this is the whole new, the reboot to the whole new Transformer universe. And I wonder something. I'm guessing the whole old Cybertronian giant robot is probably because of the particular face-moving robot quintessence, I believe. Quintessence.
Quintessence.
Yeah. I'm gonna say that I have involvement to that.
I can neither confirm nor deny. No, I can actually deny all of them.
Okay, but how do you think?
It's
Oh,
so part of what's going to be happening is, like I said, we're really redeveloping Cybertron from the ground up and showing off what the plan's going to be like in the future. And one of the things that Brian pitched us and just really resonated in an interesting way was the idea of Transformers. I don't think we actually mentioned this. So the big thing with this new series is it's the first murder on Cybertron in many, many years. Basically, no one remembers a Transformer dying via murder prior to this. And so that leads to the question of, well, do Transformers still die? And the answer is, a lot of them just like take a big seat and go to think, and then kind of grow into the planet. And that seems to be what is happening there, though I won't say much more about that, because that's for future issues.
actually, my question. Okay, but my question was, how big is Cybertron? Is it size of Jupiter?
I don't actually know the exact dimensions, but
And
it's pretty sizable.
And will Primus will be involved in this? And the 13 times.
I can't say on that. Keep reading to find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Someone who's kind of playing sort of role from the last series, any chance it could be brought back as a series or some kind of variation comic crossover with the Lost Light current series? Does that throw a lot of fun?
I mean, I love Lost Light. I am very glad that I got to be the editor to put a bow on that series. I don't know that we will. I mean, when we closed that chapter, one of the things that we had talked about with James a lot was leaving it open-ended for other people to pick up the story, not in a necessarily professional IDW sense, but in a fans continuing to tell those stories sense. So, you know, that is a big hesitation for me to do anything else with the official Lost Light canon, because I am happy that we sort of relinquished it to the fans to tell their own stories, and I don't want to then accidentally make it feel like anyone's ideas are invalidated.
I'll see you next. Go ahead.
Are there any plans for more motion comics?
We're talking. Nothing concrete. Well, not a no, but nothing set up right now. It's definitely some stuff to talk about. Yeah. Did you like them?
Well, I'm a voice actor, so I was just curious what voices.
There you go. All right.
Given the Transformers universe that ended recently was called IDW does IDW have any suggestions of how to call the new Transformers universe, distinguish it as both IDW continuities except for
Well, we don't want to call it G2 because that's already taken. Beast Wars. No. No, I mean, you know, I don't know that we have any really concrete ideas for what to call it. We've been calling it Transformers 2019. Hey, that's the year it launched. But that's definitely something I like when the fans come up with, because it makes my life easier.
I think it's something that has to come from the fans too. Like that was not an official name or anything. So yeah. You.
You said that this iteration is going back further than any other continuity in the Transformers universe. But so I'm just confused as to how far back you actually gone. Because I mean, even the IDW, the last time we went to we went to a time travel, which showed as far back as Megatron is still being built, and then it's going to be a universe. So I'm just confused as to how far back you actually are.
You meant in terms of like when it the starting point from the continuity, that like the first issue of the IDW comic started with them coming to Earth. The first issue or the first episode of More Than Meets the Eye, the war had already started. And
Yeah, so it's not to say that there aren't stories that have been told probably linearly farther back in other iterations, so much as for a starting point to a whole new Transformers story, we're starting back further than others have been. We are still a ways before the war, and that's going to rage on for millions of years or whatever. So we are quite a ways back.
How much of an influence has the previous continuity having on this new series? Like obviously, it's had some influence because Windblade's the main seems to be the main character, and like she just showed up. Is there going to be any specific mythology or prominence of certain characters that influence this new series?
So anything that happened in the previous series, we are just trying to ignore and push really hard away from. We don't want to be associated with that stuff. No, it is always a consideration because there have been some very good ideas from the previous series, and clearly it resonated with people for a long, long time. That's why it was a 13-year-old ongoing story when it ended. So Ruckley's definitely picked up some of that stuff, but I wouldn't say there's anything specific. It's more the tone and the importance of humanizing the Transformers that carries over.
Ruckley's definitely read all that stuff, and he, not to like toot our own horn or something, but I think there's some stuff that James, Margaret, maybe myself, and the artists did in that series that have become sort of integral to the way Transformers are. That I sort of think the version of Starscream that was in like RID and Until All One especially, I think that's I think it's hard to do Starscream without thinking about that version of the character. And I think there's a lot of that. There's just things that have become part of the mythos. So some of that's definitely going to show up. There'll be yes, I think probably some specific things you can trace back to it, but yeah, I mean like David said, it's not a there's no hard and fast rule. It's just kind of whatever really fits and makes the most sense. That is now sort of inescapable of the way you think about some of the characters and situations.
The Transformers 84 number 0, is it just a one shot or is it limited or?
It's just going to be a one shot, but it'll be.
Unless you demand it.
Yeah, unless you demand it.
What happened?
Weird
Number
thing.
0, number 2.
Right? Weird thing. The number 1 issue that would come after the number 0 issue has been out for 35 years.
Right.
So, it won't be based on the comic. I can say that. I don't know too much about the Netflix show. Suffice to say, we definitely share some things. Like, one of the things that we're doing with this comic is really walking the same line as Hasbro in some ways. You'll notice a lot of the designs are straight out of the new toy line, and that seems to be where the animation is going to, at least given the title. So there will definitely be similarities, but we are not responsible for like writing the scripts or anything like that. So it's not going to be directly based on it.
Have they announced everybody that works on that show?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. There is somebody. This isn't James. This isn't me. This isn't Margaret. There is somebody that's.
He's announced.
Oh yeah. Brandon Easton is one of the writers on that show, and he worked on some of the Transformers comics. He's a great friend. He's working on the Star Trek comics right now.
Yeah. So you definitely have previous IDW people in the writers' room helping guide the story.
Any other questions? Yeah.
So I just have a curious thought. So we know this is taking place before the war, which is pretty good because it's like, let's see how this war started, how this all happened. It's their Cybertronian babies. That's
one of the central questions that editor Tom Waltz wanted answered, and I was like, have you not read the Transformers comics that James and I did? Because it was all about that. Yeah, that's definitely
yeah.
I wouldn't even contend that Rubble is essentially a Cybertronian baby. I think at the start of issue number 2, we say that he's been around for about 48 cycles, so he is fresh-faced and new and as close to a baby as you can get. I think.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about Optimus Prime, either one, you know, relationship. But curious on the. But aside that, what if you're gonna draw something? If you're gonna get into the Cybertronian War, and what part of the craziest feat would Megatron or Optimus Prime will do? Like the part, like one time in the comic and the original one in War of Cybertron, that Optimus got blown in his face by a refinery explosion. Will be something similar to that?
I mean, I expect that once we get to the actual war, there will be some pretty crazy stuff going on, but that is a ways out. I will say, not Optimus, Orion Pax and Megatron are going to be doing a really cool thing in issue number 6, and I can't say anything more than that, but it's going to be really cool.
100% pure adrenaline.
I know that you had that poster for for your comic. Are we going to be able to see more of the cities such as Boston, Leon?
Yeah, so we are definitely going to be doing a little bit of traveling around the world. That's sort of part of what Rebels education is. At this point, we've mostly been outside of Iacon, a little bit inside of Iacon, next to the Tether to the Moon, which is a really cool feature, and then I think issue number 2 ends in Tarn. So we're getting around. It'll be a slow thing, but we will definitely show off new locales.
Notice that IDW has been doing like a ton of just absolutely off the wall amazing crossovers. So what would your dream crossovers be?
Oh. Good question. Yeah. I mean, Star Trek Transformers is pretty far up there for me. But, I don't know, Megan? Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on that.
Yeah, no, I'm on
joke
the spot. I don't know, something bonkers, like My Little Pony and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I would read that.
Right?
Sonic.
That would be scary, though.
Yeah. But in a fun
In
way.
a fun way, that would be
No, I mean, I think that's probably it for me. It would be either Sonic TMNT or Sonic Transformers. I just really want to see Sonic and Blur race and see how that turns out.
Who would win?
Brilliant.
Sonic did almost outrun the Singularity Gravity.
Yeah. Especially with Kay drawing the Kazama, my partner on Optimus Prime, drawing Death Set at Marvel. I'd really like to see Death Set come back. It was something he was trying to get. When Kieran Gillen was doing some Death Set stuff on Iron Man, I think I was trying to talk to him about putting in a good word for us.
So Marvel Action Death Set?
Marvel Action Death Set is, yeah, you heard it here first, folks. All right, well, thank you very much. I really appreciate everybody coming out for this. We've got a Transformers signing. God knows who'll be there at 2 o'clock.